hold on, don't give. If you're attracted to him and if there's some redeeming quality, go out on a second date and get curious.
Thanks again for joining us on Second Act TV. I want to welcome back Jim Griffith and Emily Liu, the romantic relationship coaching team and founders of the Epic Love Institute. Thanks so much for staying over again.
Great. We love talking to you.
Yeah, thank you, Silke.
Well, we want to focus a little bit on the dating part here today, particularly first dates. You know, in this online, in this digital world, in the swipe left and right, whatever, we are so quick to judge and dismiss that even when we do get to a first date, we're quick to judge and dismiss. Why, if the first date, didn't go that well, or maybe the spark wasn't there or something, why should we not ditch someone after a first date?
Because that could be the spark that gets generated later that could lead to something really special.
It's one of the downsides to online dating is that you are encouraged to make such quick decisions without really considering who the real person is. So you get to the first date, and that's where the real information collection starts, right? A real experience with this person starts. You're getting to know them.
So we have a client where during one of the first dates, she shared something about working with her ex and how they have a business in common.
They have a very collaborative relationship, after the marriage dissolved.
Then he had an opinion about, wait, you still work with your ex? I don't get it. How could you forgive someone like that for what he did? So he was making all sorts of judgments about her. And so she gave us the lowdown on how the date went. And she said, not going to see him again. How dare he judge me in this way? And we're like, hold on. Don't give. If you're attracted to him and if there's some redeeming quality, go out on a second date and get curious.
Right.
Because he's judging you. We judge other people from... You have to make a U-turn into yourself. What are you really judging about yourself that you're projecting that judgment onto how somebody else decided to live their life?
It's really about, as Emily said, getting curious and understanding a lot more about this person before you just discard them. And, they're no longer in the pool of candidates for you. And you may have missed the diamond in the rough that you've been looking for.
Well, and so many things can go wrong on a first date. I mean, how important are first date impressions? Are they even accurate? I guess there's no black or white answer, but how should we think of impressions?
Impressions. I from a man's perspective, since visual is everything.
It's a big part of it. It's not everything, it's a big part of it.
For initial, a man would not even consider going out with somebody
you're
who
talking about
did not.
You're talking about the swiping, swipe right thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, you got to get past the swiping
right.
process.
We're already on the first date, so
right.
We got
Already
past
on the first. And there has to. If the guy looked like he knew how to put himself together in the picture, but then he shows up in like pants that are 5 inches too long and he's 20 pounds heavier. Okay, that's like false advertising.
Yeah, so you want to match what you represented in your profile. That's one of the things that can go wrong on the first date. If you lie about your age, for instance, or
lie about your height.
Somehow you have pictures that are from 10 years ago and you look a lot different now.
And when you stay curious, and so that means, okay, you're not sure. That means you're going to go into the next date if he decides that, okay, let's do another date. That means you're going to go into it without an attachment.
Yeah.
Without the story, I think he's the one. Yeah. And, I've been guilty of it. There have been a few people where like, I think he's the one. And of course, what happens? Everything goes south. You self-sabotage.
If you approach that with a different idea, that this is a potential friend. Think of it as
data collection.
It's a potential friendship that I'm exploring that might blossom into something more. And maybe I feel the spark, maybe I don't. So your idea of okay, if you put them in the friend zone after the first date, that's not a terrible thing, because the friend zone is a safe place for people to discover more about each other. If he stays in the friend zone, then obviously that's not maybe the outcome you're looking for. But the idea of putting somebody in the friend zone isn't necessarily the end of the process.
Yeah. We did a video, I think I might have mentioned already, on the importance of a spark on a first date. And one of the points that I think it was Joni that she made is that sparks develop. And I think there's research behind that as well, especially for women. A lot of women will say, who are married now for a long time, that the attraction developed. But I remembered also the comments on that video from both men and women was, well, you know what? If there's no attraction at all, I'm not going on a second date. I'm sorry. There has to be a spark. There has to be some excitement that, no. And I get that. There has to be something.
Yeah, I think that's different for different people. This idea of chemistry or a spark or this instant falling in love idea, it does happen, but it's really rare.
And it can get you into trouble.
It can get you to the he's the one conclusion way prematurely before you find out there are a few things in his closet, skeletons that you probably should know about.
And we've certainly worked with couples where like, oh my gosh, he's the one or she's the one.
We have this one individual that a dating client of ours who, I don't know, how many times has she already concluded with different men that he's the one? Maybe 4 or 5 different times, and sometimes she hasn't even met him yet. It's one of the realities of where we are in our stage of life. We don't have a lot of time left, so there is some time pressure and some urgency to find that one. I think if you go into it with this idea of, okay, this is a friendship first, I'm going to get to know this person. Maybe there's going to be chemistry. Maybe there's not at first. Maybe it develops over time.
Yeah.
How many times have you heard people talk about stories where they had this friend who suddenly blossomed into a romantic relationship because they trusted them? They knew them really well, right?
Right. Well, again, this segment, is really about not ditching somebody after a first date. So what advice would you leave with our viewers or give our viewers about like maybe the parameters around that? I don't know if you can even do that, but when do you, that's done, and this is a good time to go on a second date.
Yeah.
It's completely a judgment call. Of course, we're always judging in this process. It's a selection process. It requires judgment, right? But what I would encourage your viewers to do is to really ask themselves, what assumptions am I making based on the little bit of data that I've collected so far?
Yes.
Well, how am I extrapolating that into something much bigger than it might be? I'm misunderstanding it in the way that I, am sort of predisposed to understand it. It really is trying to open up some self-awareness about where my biases are and where my judgments might be, based on just too little data.
Yeah, and just say, I'm really curious about you. Can you tell me more? Can you tell me more about that? And 2 words to incorporate during the dating process and also in your whole relationship is, I'm really curious. I'm curious about that. Yeah. And you really have to say from an open heart so that this will help them to open up. And remember from the other segment where we said, I'm really curious. Why did you do this? No, you don't. Remember, you don't say the word why, or should, or why don't you? I'm curious. Why don't you? That's going to negate each other. Yeah. Then that's going to evoke the defensiveness of the other person.
Yeah, that's
so. If you think of this as a learning process, it's a learning process about yourself. Dating, you discover a lot about yourself in the dating process, and if you can think of it that way. And think of these dates as potential friends that might turn into something more, then you have a different framework. You've reframed the whole experience as kind of a playful, there's not a lot writing on it. It's really just a matter of enjoyment, getting to know somebody. Now, with all of that said, if you come away from a date and said, I don't ever want to be, with this person ever again, right. That's probably a pretty strong signal that it's, it's not appropriate to go on a second date.
So, getting back to the topic of this segment, which is why not to ditch someone on a first date, but go on a second date. What am I not considering? If I'm just not attracted to him. Where do I have to think a little more? What is go ahead, go do a second date, and nope, that just isn't going to work.
Yeah.
It's a great question. And, the dating process is about judgment at the end of the day. But I think what you have to ask yourself is, as you're making those judgments, as you're making those decisions, those choices, are you doing them based on too little data? Or are you bringing a bias into it that you might not be aware of, that you were sort of hypersensitive to something and you saw something that smelled a little bit like something that you really don't want? Therefore, it must be that thing. That's jumping to conclusion on very little data. So what we do is we really encourage our clients to reframe the whole process of dating. It's kind of a fun, playful adventure. You're out there meeting new people, making new friends, and hopefully, you'll find somebody where that can mature and develop into something more. But if after the first date, there are things about that person that you would like in a friend, that you might like to have as a friend, then that's an opportunity to pursue it further, even if the spark or the chemistry may not have been there in the first time. Sometimes chemistry develops over time. Sometimes it takes, a few dates for that really to kick in, and you realize, wow, this guy is a lot deeper and a lot more what I'm looking for than I realized. Because we don't always know what we're looking for also in this dating process, right? Until we find it, right? So if you judge that this person is not the fit, then you might have thrown out something that you actually were looking for.
Yeah.
Look at your minimum criteria. Okay, there's a little bit of something. Okay, that can be worked on. Okay, he said he's lost 20 pounds and he's got 10 more to lose, and okay.
Yeah, what are the potentials?
Yeah.
Right? If you look at this as a potential.
Yeah.
I think that's where you're going. Right?
Yeah, not as a potential husband or wife, but as just a potential second date. That's all we're doing right now.
That's it. Just think of just
Can I have
think
fun
of the
with this
next
person
date.
again? Right?
Exactly.
Or was this experience so horrible that I never want to have any time with this person again? That's a pretty clear-cut choice. So we're not saying that, every first date should turn into a second date. Absolutely not. No. But there are plenty of them maybe that we're discarding too quickly.
Yeah. And also watch out for the first date that's like, oh my God. I think they're the one.
This is the converse of that.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of not going through to a second date. It's after the first date, just getting so attached to this is the right person for me. He's perfect or she's perfect in every way. You have no idea who this person is yet. You're just scratching the surface after one date.
Exactly. I think the biggest takeaway, at least for me, is really how judgmental are we on that first date? How judgmental am I? Because as you said, there are, online dating especially is a series of so many first dates, that we're rushing to judgment on. So anyway, just something to think about. I know there's lots of people watching that are going to go, no, I'm sorry. If there's no attraction, I'm not going to do it, and all that is fine. And do leave your comments. Did something spark when we were talking here, or something you really agree with, or something you don't? Jim and Emily are terrific at, interacting with our comments and.
Yeah, we love the comments. We love responding, and we try to respond to all of them.
Yes. And we've learned so much more, and a few segments have gotten sparked from your comments. So absolutely do that. We will link to all of your information. Jim and Emily on their website, they do have the ability for you to book a free consultation if you just have some questions that you want to ask. And anything else that you want to leave with our audience before we close out?
Just think of it as a job interview process. You wouldn't necessarily...
It's a friend interview. Yeah.
You wouldn't necessarily ditch a potential candidate based on one little thing they say. You're going to invite them back along with a couple others.
Go a little deeper. Drill down a little deeper
drill down.
Things that might
Same
turn out
thing
to be,
with dating.
Yeah. That's a great analogy. Exactly. You wouldn't just throw that away over one little thing. Anyway, we'll leave it at that, and I look forward to talking to you guys again soon on Second Act TV.
Thank you, Silke. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for watching. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. And if there's a topic that you'd like to have us cover, visit our website, secondact.tv. We have a little red suggestion box in the upper right-hand corner of our site. Just click on that, drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.